Hey, good morning. Welcome to the JeepSolid Garage. So today we're going to be dropping the skid plate and transfer case on my friend Jason's 1993 Jeep Wrangler YJ Sahara. Now, that thing underneath, it is leaking like a sieve. And he doesn't know if it's coming from the transfer case itself, like the body of the case, if it's coming from the input shaft or the output shaft. There's little seals there where the drive shaft comes out of the transfer case. Or if it's leaking from the transmission itself. So we're going to get under there, we're going to drop that skid plate, support everything, and remove the transfer case, take a look at the transmission, and go from there. So here we go. Rattlesnakes!
Don't drop it!
Stop! Actually had this for a... Now his Jeep has been leaking a little bit, dripping a little bit from the transmission pan. No big deal, we can replace that pretty easily. But this last week, his Jeep had been sitting for like a week. He hadn't moved it, and yeah, just a little drip here and there. So then he went and he moved it and backed it into his driveway, and it just started leaking from everywhere. So that's why he's kind of to the point of where he just wants to drop the skid plate, remove the transfer kit, just kind of look at all the seals and everything. Maybe
the vehicle back to the vehicle. There's a leak happening somewhere in between the engine and the tailpipe.
Alright, so we're going to start by loosening the transmission mount bolts. Then we can jack up the transmission a bit, the transfer case, take the pressure off the skid plate and cross member there. Then we can start taking the skid plate off. Alright, so we've got the transmission supported with the jack stand there. The jack's still in place. Another jack stand there, and Jason is removing the skid plate bolts.
I think it's leaking from here because that's a fresh drip and it has not been driven. So I really don't think it's coming from the transmission oil pan gasket because we haven't driven this thing in a couple weeks. That's my guess.
That's most likely the input shaft to the transfer case.
I think so.
All right, we've got the fluid drained, the rear drive shaft removed. Now we got to take the front drive shaft off. We're going to loosen that up and then just kind of hang it off to the side here. Then we can start removing the transfer case and look at the seals. All right, now that we got those drive shafts out of the way, we can go ahead and separate the transfer case from the transmission. When I was a kid, I used to break dance on cardboard. Now, removing the bolts between the transmission and transfer case can be a bit of a headache. There's 6 bolts that attach the two, and the ones on the very top can be tough to reach. So with the combination of some extensions and elbows, you can get to them, but it just takes a little bit of work. There's also 2 wiring harnesses that you have to unplug from the transfer case, and a little vent tube on the top. Watch out for that. And we've got the shift linkage on the back side of the transfer case. Got to take that off too.
In the garbage truck.
And right here between the transfer case and transmission, we're thinking that's the source of the leak. All right, there we are. Transfer case is out.
There's a bear.
So there's the 6 bolts we were working on. Some of these are real tough to get to, and then you've got this vent up here on the top, and a couple other connectors, and the shift lever that we had to remove. So got it all out, and this is the seal we're suspecting is leaking, the input shaft here on the transfer case. Or it could be the output shaft here. The output shaft on the transmission there. We've got a seal in there as well, so we're just going to replace both of those. How'd it go, Jason? Fairly easy?
Not too bad. I mean, there's struggles as always. These top two bolts are real fun, but that's why I have you around, right?
Yeah. You look dirty.
Do I?
And a new transmission pan seal.
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
We got to do that as well. So there you go, our skid plate 231 transfer case, rear drive shaft. So we got to run to the hardware store, get some of these seals.
No, auto parts.
Auto parts store. So we got to run to the auto parts store, get some seals for this thing, and we'll be back in a bit. In the meantime, check out my other video linked up here.
We're not done though. We're keeping it rolling, right?
Part 1 of 2.